welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back at the Fandom Zone, ready to talk more WandaVision and yet another big episode with my wonderful co-host, wonderful friend, and man who's attempting to have even spikier hair than yours truly, DJ Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Hey, Charles, thank you for noticing my stylistic change in hair there. Could it possibly be a tribute to this episode? Maybe. I made just in time for that. We could talk about crazy hair, which is definitely something that crops up in this episode. Wow, I'm so happy to be here with you, and what another amazing episode. I am so looking forward to talking to this. This show just keeps getting better and better and has me so excited. And I also have to hand it to you for being so good at, limiting spoilers or sharing any at all. That was so masterfully done on your end. Well done.
Oh, I'm trying. You're apparently talking about my post where I tried
on Facebook.
Basically on Facebook where I said, okay, spoilers for tonight's WandaVision without spoilers.
Yes.
And I did this post where essentially it was from The Dark Knight with, the Joker, talking about, he was during his rant about aggressive expansion.
Yes.
So I was like, aggressive expansion is a perfect way to sum up what Wanda does in this episode.
Yep. It was very well done.
She gets aggressive and then she expands the Hex Dome.
Yeah. But at least you're respectful of people during the week this episode is out. Unlike folks like, OMG, Quicksilver, and then they put this out.
Right.
Or they basically tell you what happens in the episode.
I mean, I get it. It's very tempting because I want to be like, okay, I saw something I was really excited. I want to talk about it.
Sure.
But I also know from my own personal experience that it's really a downer when you're looking forward to something and some asshole spoils it for you.
Yeah, or you're on social media for no particular reason except to post something completely non-related, trying to avoid any kind of spoiler because you haven't seen WandaVision just yet.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of creeping around, like looking around going, there's no spoilers, right? Okay, let me post and I'm out of here.
You're like ducking them. You're dodging bullets, like you're Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, having the bullet time where you're lean back and you drive the bullets coming over you and you're all dodging them. You shouldn't have to try to avoid the internet just because you haven't watched this one show. It should be safe, right? It shouldn't be so precarious. So once again, our spoiler warning. So if you haven't seen WandaVision episode 6, be warned, we are going to spoil it heavily. So fair warning.
Or go back and watch it and then come back to us.
Exactly. Yep. Well, we definitely want that. We don't want you to go permanently. We want you to go watch it. If you haven't seen it, then come back so you can discuss it with us, right? So here at episode 205, we are going to be talking this time, of course, all new Halloween Spooktacular! Exclamation mark.
Yes.
Got to throw that in, which is a very sly nod to, I believe it was Fox, because they, a lot of times they have Halloween episodes and they're like, coming up next on the all new, or maybe ABC when they did their TGIF.
Yeah.
Set of shows where, they have various Halloween themed episodes and they would coming up on an all new Halloween Spooktacular.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the early days of The Simpsons where you had the Treehouse of Horror, which was obviously became a staple in the show. So right. I think you are correct in saying it was also a Fox trope as well, because obviously at the time, Fox was The Simpsons owned Fox.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is it's one of those things that network TV announcers would do, in their promos or whatever for the shows coming up.
Yeah.
So that's where that title comes from, if you're wondering. So this is the 6th episode of WandaVision. So we are now officially at the 2/3 mark.
Yeah.
Already. And aired on just a couple days ago, actually yesterday, February 12th, 2021. Written by Chuck Hayward and Peter Cameron. Peter Cameron, we talked about a little bit last week because he co-wrote last week's episode on a very special episode, ... And once again, this is directed by Matt Shakman, so it seems after directing the first 6 episodes, it seems like he's going to direct the whole thing. And this one was 37 minutes, so not as long as last week's, but certainly not as short as some of those first couple of episodes.
Yeah.
So that seems to be their sweet spot, apparently. Although, personally, I wouldn't mind 5 minutes more, especially after the brutal cliffhanger we got at the end of this episode.
Yeah,
right?
because everyone's like, "What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next?" Everyone's like, "Oh, well, how?" Because I was actually hoping we would pick up exactly where we left off. Of, Quicksilver's at the door. What do you say to him? They didn't
Yes.
do that, which okay, but I was kind of hoping we would address that awkward moment, which we kind of didn't. But it's cool.
Yeah, but we did get some very interesting conversations between Wanda and Pietro,
That we did,
which
yes.
we are definitely going to talk about in our
Hmm.
topics today. But for me, the big cliffhanger that was so frustrating is what happened to Darcy?
I have some theories on
All
that.
right, all right. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, sounds good. And in this one, we fully get a good long look at Julian Hilliard as Billy,
Hmm.
Jet Klein as Tommy, and Evan Peters as Pietro Maximoff, in addition to our regular cast. So before we get into trivia, what were your general thoughts on this episode and the latest developments in this ever convoluted but engaging, interesting mystery that's going on here?
Engaging is exactly the right term because you just really can't wait to see what happens from the next episode. As we'd mentioned last week, I was seriously hanging on the edge of my seat. I was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? This was an amazing episode. It was just like, so I had not geeked out like that in a while. But
Right.
as I mentioned, probably this new dosage of MCU goodness probably just like sent me over the top. But I just love this episode. I really did. I mean, also the references to certain shows, which I actually did watch because they were a little bit more recent, and they did actually play over in Italy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I immediately caught what they were referencing, and I was actually a fan of Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, I was at the time. So
So you
I really
definitely
enjoyed.
appreciated those credits, and then Billy talking to the camera, and then
Yeah.
breaking the fourth wall, kind of like Malcolm did.
Yeah, because it brought me back to my high school days when I would come home from school, and the first thing I'd do was kind of get something to eat and flip on the TV, and that's what they would be on. Malcolm in the Middle would be on. And I kind of timed my stuff of, okay, once Malcolm in the Middle is done and this other show is done, I've got homework to do. So that's kind of how I kind of structured my days at the time, was what daytime TV was offering. But yeah, I just really, really loved it. And the little Easter eggs thrown in here and there are great. And it fueled so many more theories. And I know that people are really I'm glad they're going to their own boards and they're
Right.
throwing out the most insane yet fantastic theories. Even on our feeds, on our Twitter feed and
Yeah.
our Facebook feed, folks have been going nuts. And I love that they are coming up with their own thoughts and theories.
And that is certainly, since you brought it up, is certainly replicated in this week's Phantom Zone fan mail, which we got a ton of, you guys.
Yay.
So
Thank you guys for writing in.
yeah, we definitely appreciate everyone who's written in, but we got a lot of fan mail to talk about, so we got to get started on this because I want to get to the fan mail, obviously, and hear everybody else's thoughts in addition to ours. Because, well, hey, you're used to us. We spouted our theories, but I want to hear some of your guys' theories as well. I think it'll be very
And after
interesting.
all, it is the fandom zone, right?
Exactly. So we want to hear from the fandom, right? So makes sense to me, anyway. I thought this was another solid episode. Definitely is continuing this momentum. You kind of worry after a couple of great episodes, well, are we going to get one that's lesser quality? Is it going to drop off? Or is there going to be something that kind of takes away from the momentum? Will there be that drop? But so far, 3 episodes in a row, which have been solid home runs, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you because you could have that lull between the big double whammy of the or a triple whammy, if you will, of episodes 7, 8, and 9, which
Right.
might be like the big boom, boom, boom things. But yeah, it's true. And also the writing is so solid. But then again, we also have some. I think which has always been one of Disney's strengths, the casting department has done a fantastic job once again. Everybody who was supposed to be cast for certain characters have been cast, and they are spot on choices.
Right. And as far as costuming, it's very fun. That's one of the things I want to talk about when you get into trivia, the Halloween costumes that are displayed in
Yes.
this. If you're a comic book fan, a classic comic book fan of the Avengers and X-Men books, you're going to be very, very happy with this episode. All right.
It reminded me a little of what they did with Captain America: The First Avenger when he gets his first costume,
Yes.
which
The
is
Star
very
Spangled
reminiscent
Man
of
with the plan costume.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was that's a perfect analogy, actually, because it's very similar that it's kind of dorky, it's a little geeky, It's not obviously, the stylish movie costume. It's a little cheesy, but it's a great nod to the comic book designs by various comic book artists. All right, so since we're on the subject, we might as well just start talking about trivia.
Yep.
While we're talking about it, the episode, like Nick said, did pay homage to the early 2000 sitcom Malcolm in the Middle, as well as the fact that many sitcoms feature holiday-themed episodes, particularly Halloween ones. So very much in that vein. And since we were talking about the costumes, they all, like Wanda, Vision, Pietro, Billy, and Tommy, all wear Halloween costumes inspired by their comic book counterparts' designs. So with Wanda, Vision, and Pietro, it's essentially the 60s, 70s, 80s era costumes that they're all wearing. At least it's kind of like, it's very homemade versions. It's not like an intentional, like here they are in spiffy versions of those classic comic book costumes. They essentially look like something they made at home for Halloween.
Yeah, like if somebody was doing a cosplay, for example.
Exactly. Like, and not even like, professional cosplay. This is like very, very amateur cosplay. So something you would do, you'd take ordinary objects from around the house. Like I'm thinking in particular, the Vision's yellow basketball shorts that he's wearing.
And the cape especially
and
as
the
well.
cape, and, with the red makeup that you pick up at like a party store.
Yes.
That kind of thing. Not very, not professional, very amateurish. So it's almost like if you ever seen, I don't know how many people are familiar with the concept of sweeted trailers, where they are, for example, if you take like very popular movie trailers, like Marvel movies or Star Wars movies or what have you, and there's a segment, like on YouTube or whatever, where these people make their own recreations of those trailers using homemade cheap costumes that they've created from objects around their house.
Yeah.
Just for the novelty of it. Like here it is, like these are all objects that I just kind of cobbled together from my house because, hey, I'm stuck in quarantine all day.
Yes.
So, but I made my own version of, say, like the Avengers Endgame trailer or what have you. So that's essentially what this is here, these Halloween costumes. Now, Elizabeth Olsen thought that this was the perfect way to wear a comic book accurate version of the Scarlet Witch's costume from the 60s through the 80s, because essentially you can't really take that costume seriously, according to her.
No, you can't. I mean, because it obviously objectifies the character and it sexualizes it. And as we mentioned before, just purely practical reasons. Right. You can't see this woman, running around and fighting bad guys, etc., dressed like that. And it's just not physically practical compared to her MCU costume with, the jacket and everything else and the more,
Well, in this homemade version, it's essentially a red swimsuit over pink tights, and she's got like a Red Riding Hood cape over her, with a bowstring tie.
Yeah.
And the probably the most professional thing about that costume would be the headpiece.
Yeah, the coronet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, it just looks like something, very simple that she made, she cobbled together from her closet or what have you. Yeah.
But it's nice that she says she was doing the Sokovian gypsy, or Sokovian fortune teller.
Yeah, that's the way she explained it. That it was a traditional, costume in Sokovia. But Elizabeth Olsen apparently was a champion of wearing something to acknowledge the original costume in some way.
More power to her.
Yeah.
I like that she's embraced the character so much. I know that she's actually done YouTube videos where she actually tells the story of the Scarlet Witch in the comics.
Oh, really?
And I love that she's embraced it so much, yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so we need to give Elizabeth Olsen all the loves because, taking that character to heart, that's a very big deal because some actors, they just treat things as a role.
That's right.
Looking at you, Harrison Ford.
Ouch.
Right? Tell me I'm wrong. You can't.
I ain't going to argue with that.
No, but then there's other actors like, in this case, Elizabeth Olsen or, say, Chris Evans with Captain America, where they truly embrace the character. Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man, that kind of thing. Where they embrace the role as opposed to treating it like it's just a job.
No, it really becomes a part of you, of who you are. I mean,
Right.
or think of even Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
That's another great example. Yeah. He was very, very embracing that. Or Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool, that kind of thing. So, not so much Green Lantern, but he has fun making fun of Green Lantern.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. All right. Also, in the comics, you notice the costumes that they had for Tommy and Billy
Of course, yeah.
were very similar to the costumes they take on as characters when they're older teenagers as the superheroes Wiccan and Speed. So Billy becomes Wiccan, who is essentially like a male version of the Scarlet Witch. And Speed, Tommy becomes Speed, who's essentially like a teenage version of Quicksilver.
Yeah.
So, and it makes perfect sense that in this episode you have young Tommy, essentially looking like a mini-me version of Quicksilver.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a very nice nod. That they end up, in both characters, they go on to become Young Avengers. So again, I'm thinking that they're setting up Young Avengers here.
Yeah, unless we mysteriously lose these guys by the end of the show, it would be kind of dumb if they did that. But
well, if we do, we could lose them as kids, but then maybe they would be brought back as teenagers.
Which could kind of follow in the comics as well, because also in the comics they're kind of separated from their parents, and they then come back, not having lived with literally with their parents as they're doing in the MCU version.
Right, because in the comics, for those who don't know, Mephisto shows up. We've talked about Mephisto on the show, and Mephisto essentially feels that Wanda stole souls from him, 2 souls to create Billy and Tommy. So he comes back looking like, okay, I'm going to take these souls back, and Wanda, of course, is like, no, you can't take my kids, and they essentially blink out of existence. Only to turn up in Young Avengers as teenagers.
Yeah, with, of course, different surnames because they've been brought up in different households.
Right. So there's with a completely different, origin, background.
Yeah, not knowing who their heritage, if you will, which is obviously is revealed to them later down the line.
Right, which probably gets a little convoluted, so I won't go into it here.
No.
But I think it's one of
it
is. But I think it's one of the arguments why people are speculating, including us, why Mephisto might be behind everything.
And I think that we get a little bit of an idea of that here too in this episode as well.
Yes, we do, and I've got some theories about that as well.
Ooh, okay.
Especially involving a certain Tyler Hayward.
You and me both.
All right, so stay tuned, everybody. We'll get there. Don't worry. You gotta pace yourself, right? So I'll be patient. We're not gonna just slam the "please stand by" and then leave you hanging. I promise, because God knows that's frustrating, right?
Whenever that happens, I'm like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Just when it's getting good, you're like reaching for your popcorn and about to shove it into your mouth. No.
No. It's over already.
Yeah.
All right. And one last bit of trivia I want to mention. So this was kind of like a very sly little meta Easter egg gag in this. You probably caught it, I'm guessing, where Wanda does like a double take when Tommy uses the phrase kick-ass.
Yes.
To describe her brother and, to describe Wanda's brother. So, if you remember, in Avengers Age of Ultron, Quicksilver, Pietro, was played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who, interestingly, we got to see in the recap before this episode.
In fact, it makes you wonder why they put that in.
Right?
It's the footage from Age of Ultron, isn't it?
It's the footage from Age of Ultron, but I guess, they figure, well, we can't just create new footage with Evan Peters in it.
Yeah.
But you kind of wonder why they would include that. I don't know. We'll find out. But, so Aaron Taylor Johnson also played Kick-Ass in, Kick-Ass in the sequel, Kick-Ass 2, which was, of course, based on the Mark Millar, John Romita Jr. comic book series. So you had to probably really enjoyed that little nod.
I did. I was super happy, and plus, of course, yeah, because Evan Peters appeared in the first Kick-Ass film, but then his character was actually recast, believe it or not,
Yes.
in the second one. So
Right.
it's a nice little twist on that too, because
Probably
was in the
because
first
he was
Kick-Ass
so
movie.
busy with American Horror Story, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, I think his career was really starting to pick up since after that. So he became a very busy man indeed.
Yeah, he was almost kind of like the sidekick to Aaron Taylor Johnson in the first Kick-Ass movie, right?
Yeah, because he was one of his buddies.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. That movie had
and also there was.
I was just going to say it was interesting that movie had 2 Quicksilvers in it.
Yeah, and also we got a nice Top Gun reference as well, which was kind of cute.
Oh, what was that one? Why don't you share that one?
When Tommy and Pietro say we have the need for speed.
Oh yeah.
And they give the kind of same kind of bro salute that Tom Cruise and I believe it's Val Kilmer does in Top Gun.
Right.
So I well, obviously they were referencing a lot of 90s and 80s things as well. I mean, here I think we really get the idea that maybe Wanda's reality is breaking apart because there's so many references from so many decades. It doesn't stick to one decade.
Yeah, it does. And because presumably if you're doing Malcolm in the Middle, this show's got to be set either somewhere in the really late 90s or very early 2000s.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. All right. So, Nick, did you have any other trivia you wanted to add before we move on?
Well, I just wanted to ask do we want to look at the commercial here, or do we look at it that later?
Why don't we talk about the
line?
commercial first? That's a good point. Yeah. So the commercial we get in this one is for Yo Magic Yogurt.
Yeah.
So, which seems pretty obvious because Yo Magic, like your magic, get it? Yo Magic. So we get this claymation style commercial, which is very popular during like this time period that the show is, or at least the WandaVision show is currently set, where you have like this kid sitting on a desert island. He's all like, "I'm so hungry, I'd eat anything." And then you get this shark jumping out of the water on a surfboard, looking all like, "Dude," and offering him this like kind of cup of this Yo Magic yogurt.
Yeah.
And over time, the kid keeps, but the problem is the shark goes away, and the kid keeps struggling trying to get the yogurt open.
Yeah.
So he just wastes away, ultimately to the point where he turns into a skeleton because he couldn't eat it. And then there's like the tagline, Yo Magic, the snack for survivors.
Yes.
So again, they're kind of hitting home that like your magic is going to help you survive. That's the way I took this. What did you? Is that the way you took that one?
Well, there are a few things that had me wondering in this because I guess the fact that maybe possibly Wanda unlocking her abilities,
right,
and obviously the fact that Wanda is literally a survivor. Where those around her that she cares about have perished. Be it her parents, Pietro, Vision, and maybe even Tony Stark. I mean, and also to go to the board real quick. This plays in nicely with a little theory of
let's
him
go to
playing
Nick's
with
murder board.
Let's go to the board.
Yes, let's go to the board, Steve Kornacki.
Yeah, because there's no theory that I'm playing around here, actually, that the commercials are actually an interesting way of telling us Wanda's story or her bio as things progress.
Right.
And I actually shared this with Christine Peruski in one of my Fever talks, and she was like, "Dude, you have to watch something else because you're thinking too hard about this." Right. But here's what I came
I'd
up
argue
with.
You're not thinking enough. But that's me.
There you go. Depends who you ask, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Because here's what I've got so far.
Okay.
Wanda's parents get toasted by Stark.
Right.
Hydra and Strucker have time for her and make her into a goddess.
Right.
Lagos then happens. She creates a major mess. And now after witnessing so many people around her die, Mephisto, i.e. the shark, offers her a lifeline or Faustian contract to help her unlock her powers as the world around her is crumbling.
Interesting. Especially that last part.
Because I thought the shark is a fish of prey, so maybe he's preying on her weakness.
That's I can see where you're coming from. So you're saying the shark is a metaphor for Mephisto.
Yeah, because it almost seems like they're trying to tell Wanda's story as a bio through the commercials.
Right, and we speculated because, we talk about the man and the woman that they keep featuring in these commercials
Mm.
who aren't in the town of Westfield that we can discern. So my guess is this was my speculation is well, maybe these are Wanda's birth parents, or
Yeah,
as far as she knows, her birth parents.
right.
So maybe that's why they're being featured here over and over.
Yeah.
But that was, I think that's a very sound argument you've made.
Until the show proves me wrong, that's
Yeah.
what I'm going with. And also, we talked about the gypsy thing, and
Right.
also in the comics, or should we say the fortune teller,
Yeah.
Wanda and Pietro are raised by Romanis
Right.
or gypsies, if you will,
Yeah.
in the comics. And then
I know that.
I believe that their village turns on them because they manifest their powers.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, especially Zan, consider gypsy to be a slur. So
I didn't mean it in an offensive
I know you didn't.
way.
I know you didn't. That's why I'm stating it. So we don't consider that. We consider we're going to use the Romani term because we don't want the wrath of Zan. Trust me.
No,
Trust me
no,
on
of course.
this.
I kind of took it from like the gitan in French, or
Yes.
like in Hunchback of Notre Dame, obviously
Right.
known as gypsies, as in fortune tellers. Those kind of
Exactly.
the Romanis,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I wasn't trying to imply otherwise. So
No,
I
no,
apologize
no.
for that. I just want to kind
No,
of
course.
before you got yourself into trouble, I was trying to head you off.
Oh, totally. Well, no, yes. Seeing as these days everything comes under scrutiny,
Yes.
anybody of Romani heritage, I did not mean any offense at all, and I apologize if I might have inadvertently offended
And I'm
folks
sure
of
that was
Romani
not the
heritage.
case. I was sure that it's just it's a very sensitive word, especially like I said with Zan. So just want to give you a little heads up, and then we'll just drop it right there. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
exactly.
All right.
But anyways, I thought it was a nice callback to that, and we do get a nice Nick Fury and Black Widow references with Wanda and Pietro when they're kids trick-or-treating, which was fun.
Yeah, that was. With the eye patch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, or is that pretty much it?
Ooh, the other thing I thought was interesting was when we see Pietro teaching Billy and Tommy how to shotgun a soda. And the soft drink is called Kane Cola, which could be a callback to the X-Force character Garrison Kane, who is actually a member of Six Pack.
That's reaching, but I like it. It's. I think that's stretching a little bit, but
yes, I know.
But I like the attempt. I like the attempt with that.
I tried.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And the other thing that I did thought was fun was what we got on the two on the marquees of the cinema, where we got The Incredibles and The Parent Trap.
Right, which are coincidentally both owned by Disney, right?
What a surprise.
Yeah, shock, right? But it actually fits because The Incredibles being a family of superheroes, like we have here, and The Parent Trap involving twins.
That's right.
So, very cool.
That was fun.
I see what you did there. All right. So 3 topics. Let's talk one of the big ones right off the bat. Let's talk Wanda, Pietro, Billy, and Tommy. So essentially they go around the town of Westfield trick-or-treating in this episode. And Vision, also gets in a costume. But suddenly he says he's busy. He needs to go do the neighborhood watch thing and go fight crime, according to him. So Pietro volunteers to fill in for him, and which is great because after the cliffhanger of the previous episode, we're dying to know more about, especially this version of Pietro, that has suddenly returned to Wanda's life, having been not so alive the last time we saw him.
And we do get hints to that as well.
And we do get hints to that as well because, there's one part where Wanda looks up and we see, kind of like with the Vision in the previous episode, an undead version with bullet holes.
Yeah.
So did Wanda also steal her brother's body?
Wanda, I mean, really, is she a serial grave robber?
Right. I mean, at this point, we have to think yes, right?
But even the folks in Sword were speculating that some of the people in Westview might not even be alive. So it makes you wonder whether, is she literally reanimating corpses, or is this supernatural force, possibly Mephisto, bringing back people kind of from the dead and reanimating them?
I have an even more disturbing thought.
Go ahead.
Okay, what if the people that are populating Westfield were people that were killed in either Lagos or Sokovia?
Ooh, boom. That's a nice one.
Boom! Did I just blow your mind?
Yes, you can just drop the mic now and leave at this point, Charles, because you just
Right.
nailed that one.
Right? Well, I don't know if I'm right, but it's just talking this over just now, that thought just came to me. So, what if?
That maybe in her mind she's trying to give them a second lease on life because she inadvertently feels guilty for their demise?
Yes.
It could work.
Yes, and that's because remember we did get a Lagos reference.
Yeah, we did.
On time, and we've been getting Sokovia references, heavily implied, and that
And Age of Ultron is so irreferenced, isn't it, as well?
And the feeling of guilt and the fact that we know that the Vision's body was taken by Wanda. So, what if this whole thing is Wanda feeling guilty over all the deaths she either caused or people that she loved or lost? So this is her way of fixing that.
Yeah. It's like a Pet Cemetery version of the MCU.
Pretty much. So that's one of my theories here. Now that we discussed it. Yeah. Now I'm kind of like maybe there's something to that. We'll see. All right. So what did you make? Getting back, before we got sidetracked on this, like the really disturbing theory I just came up with. What did you make of Wanda and Pietro going around town, the time that they spent together, and also finally getting to know Billy and Tommy as characters?
Well, first of all, child actors, as I've often mentioned, can be hit or miss. But these two did a fantastic job. Granted, we'd actually already seen one of the two, as I'd mentioned, on Penny Dreadful City of Angels.
Right.
And not that much time has passed since he did that show. So, and he was great there, and he was even better here. And the two kids were just awesome. I mean, having been a fan...
Now, is he Billy or Tommy? I'm sorry to interrupt.
If memory serves, I believe it's Wiccan.
Okay, Wiccan. Okay, Billy.
Yeah.
All right.
Billy. Yeah, I believe it's Billy. If my head, if I'm picturing him in my head, and I believe it's him. Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, having been a big fan of Malcolm in the Middle and these, should we say, younger actors.
Right.
And of course, there was a great set of actors right there. But I just loved the dynamic that Pietro brings to the family.
Yes.
And heck, I hope I'm half as cool as an uncle as when my niece is born to my niece, like Pietro is with these two kids, because he's just great. Granted, he's a little bit wild and he's a little bit over the top sometimes, but you can tell that he is so good with them. And he really, I think he genuinely wants to, make them happy and be good to them and such, even though he's completely aware of what is going on. And in fact, there are multiple times when he asks Wanda about certain things and she asks him about certain things. And it does sometimes get rather uncomfortable. And even Wanda herself is almost thinking to herself, is this my brother? Because she's almost torn between.
She almost seems a little puzzled, doesn't she, by his return?
Yeah, because she asks him, like, what happened to your accent? Or, or this kind of thing. Or she even almost quizzes him on things that happened to them as kids, almost to make sure he's the real McCoy.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
And I just love the dynamic between the three. And Wanda, I think, is trying to really make this work. Because obviously she's aware that I think her reality is kind of crumbling, because like I said, we get all these odd references from different places. Like we get the Rubik's Cube and Jenga in the middle of, Malcolm in the Middle.
That's well spotted. Yes.
So it's like, is this what she remembers, or is she just struggling to keep it all together? It makes you wonder. But yes, I really love the dynamic between these four. I mean, what were your thoughts on this, Charles?
Well, first off, you were talking about Pietro with Billy and Tommy.
Mm.
Very early on in the episode, we kind of see Pietro playing video games with the kids, which I thought was a nice nod because if you remember, the Evan Peters Pietro played a lot of video games in the X-Men movies.
That's right.
So I thought that was a nice nod. And, he's obviously the kind of like devil may care uncle. He's the one that just let the kids be kids. And, he's the one, he's kind of like the bad influence uncle. He's going around, he talks about he gets the kids to go around with him, stealing candy at super speed, spraying everybody with silly string, and,
yeah, exactly. Destroying the pumpkins.
Yeah, smashing the pumpkins. So, not the band Smashing Pumpkins, but just want to point that out. But essentially, yeah, he's, and interestingly, something I caught early on was he was the only one who noticed that Billy was talking to the camera. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it's true because he kind of pointed it out. It's kind of looking at where Billy was looking at. It was almost like, who are you talking to?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but he was the only one who was aware of that. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. I don't know what that means, if anything. But the
it's like a breaking a fourth wall moment, a la Deadpool, maybe.
Right. But the really interesting stuff with Pietro in this is obviously between him and Wanda. And like you said,
the exchanges are so good between the two.
Yeah, they're really good. Like you said, Wanda is a little suspicious. She keeps asking him questions and whatnot. But for my money, and I kind of made a note of this, the big thing is with Pietro is at the kind of very end of the episode, Pietro starts talking throughout the episode about putting these little seeds of doubt in Wanda's head. Because he keeps asking her, well, hey, such and such happened, or he makes this comment. One comment he tells her, it's not like your dead husband can die twice. And that is what sets Wanda really off. She gets really pissed and hurls him away.
Is that the comment where she blasts him?
Yes, that's the comment where she blasts him. And this is all going on where Billy is telling her, well, Vision's in trouble. We need to do something. Yeah. So my question after watching Pietro in this episode, kind of pushing Wanda a little bit, edging her, instigating her is my point. I guess the word I'm looking for here. That when he makes this one comment to get her angry, I wonder, is Quicksilver, Pietro, actually Mephisto? Trying to get Wanda to unleash her powers through anger.
It does seem like he's trying to egg her on and is wanting to get a rise out of her because he becomes more and more insistent on the words he uses and such. So, because part of me was like, either
it's almost like he's coaxing her to get upset throughout this gradually. Like he's manipulative, which makes perfect sense for a Mephisto, right?
It is very much the devil on the shoulder kind of whispering in your ear going, do it, do it kind of thing.
Yeah, he's pushing her buttons, essentially, is what I'm going with here. And
also the fact that we see that nightmarish version of this dead Pietro.
Right.
It's been the second time it's happened, like you mentioned, and with, the bullet-ridden body. So it could be, once again, Mephisto, if it is eventually him playing on her guilt and stuff, saying, this is what happened, and kind of making her upset and just upping the ante. And we'd seen, so it could very well be that. That's what I was there.
It's like maybe Mephisto is just to taunt her and, like I said, manipulate her into getting aggressive and scared and emotional. He temporarily pulls away the curtain. and shows that the corpse underneath her illusion to remind her and put her to make her upset.
I think I was kind of in that line of thought myself, because there's still so many things we don't know. Like, for example, where did Wanda learn to have where did she learn to have this power? How did she harness this power?
Right.
And there are times where she herself seems like she doesn't know or she doesn't remember.
Well, that was one of the things that comes up between her and Pietro.
Yeah, because he actually asks her, how are you doing this?
Yeah, he's like, well, last time I checked, you were telekinetic and you could scare people.
Yeah.
So how did you get to do this? And so it's essentially Wanda like having to take a step back and like, I'm not sure how I did this.
Mm.
But you notice Pietro is very frank with her, that he seems to act like he knows what's really going on here with her.
Well, we do know that one of the things about the devil, he doesn't really sort of, he will kind of almost not lie to you, but he will kind of almost, egg you on to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So.
Or, like kind of pervert the truth.
Yes.
Twist it.
More than anything, it will be a perversion of the truth.
Yeah. So my theory, I think Quicksilver and I've talked about this where I think several characters are Mephisto. I think Pietro is another character that's actually Mephisto.
Because here we haven't seen Dottie and we haven't seen the mailman.
No, we haven't. Not at the same time, not in the same place, right?
That's right.
So just like kind of like Clark Kent and Superman, they're never in the same room together.
And it's been a while since Dottie has been absent from the picture.
Yeah, it has. It has. So just a theory, something I'm wondering with that. Now, what did you make of Billy and Tommy getting their powers?
I thought it was so cool because I know there are folks who kind of can take or leave, young versions of heroes, be it Teen Titans, be it the Young Avengers, I actually love the Young Avengers myself.
Right.
And they're just such a fun group of people, and it's so diverse and what have you. I'm actually hoping we will eventually get Hulkling. I'm a big fan of Hulkling, mind you.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out. Maybe he'll turn up in the She-Hulk TV show.
That could be the perfect place to get it to put him in. For sure.
I would think. Even though essentially, isn't he a Skrull?
Yes, he's pretty much a Skrull.
Yeah, so I mean, he could turn up in the Captain Marvel movie by that, or the Secret Invasion TV show. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is the MCU, so for all we know, he could end up being, like the son or the nephew of She-Hulk or whatever. It's like
they could change it. Yeah, who knows? Who knows, right? They could. They could change it.
But yeah, I as I said, these two kids just do a great job they take the writing, they really, really do so well with the writing they're given. And I think they really have embraced these characters. And I'm really excited. I was so excited to see the costumes, Wiccans especially, which is literally, I guess, the way comic book writers thought a Wiccan would dress.
Yes.
I don't think all Wiccans dress like that.
No.
But it's a cool thing. And also it was that era where a lot of the kids, even like the goth kids and stuff, were doing the whole gloves with the fingers cut out and everything else. So.
Yeah, so we'll see. That's just kind of it. I really like seeing them in their costumes, especially, kind of teasing that they're going to become Wiccan and Speed. I really like that. So.
Also, here they actually got their powers.
Yeah.
Out of the blue. Because, Speed got his powers, and towards the end of the episode,
Billy shows his.
Wiccan feels his father in pain.
Right.
And that's where he gets his moment of realizing he's got powers too. So I thought it was neat that we got that as well. Yeah,
because essentially at first it was Tommy who developed his powers first, so he's kind of like, yeah, I've got powers, you don't, you suck, you're
I wonder whether the hairdo was a tribute to Wolverine when it came to
that was a tribute to Pietro's kind of swirly pointy hair.
So you think it was mainly just the comics of his hair just being swirly and
right?
Yeah, because it was very sort of reminiscent of the way Hugh Jackman had his hair.
But I think because Evan Peters' hair, is so long.
Yes,
they couldn't quite do just the simple curls.
True.
they had to kind of like do a little bit more like Wolverine because of
Yeah,
the
they gave
hair.
him the
Like
Hugh Jackman hairdo.
they didn't want him to cut his hair, so they had to kind of like sort of homage it, but then it doesn't look quite comic book like. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's my
But
guess.
it was great. It was great, and I really love these two kids. And hopefully,
Yeah.
I don't know how long we'll keep them around. They'll probably end up casting older actors if they do end up becoming the Young Avengers. But these two are doing such a fantastic job at what they're doing, and
they'll probably stay the kids through the rest of WandaVision.
Yeah, at least for this.
Yeah,
but it's like
unless they age him up in the final episode, we'll see.
It was like with Cassie. I was so sad to see that actress go because she was so good as Cassie Lang.
Right.
And now obviously they're going to be casting an old actress because in Ant-Man and the Wasp, it was the same actress and she is so darn good. And you just kind of wish they could have sped up her growth because she's just so good at it.
Well, obviously they probably want to make everybody the same age as Haley Steinfeld in the Hawkeye TV series.
Yeah, so the one at Kate Bishop's age.
Yeah. So that's probably where everybody's going to end up, I'm guessing. All right. I know we're going to talk more Wanda here toward the end of the topics. So anything else that we should talk about Wanda or Pietro?
No, I think we're pretty much good. It will be interesting now to see what has happened by at the end of the episode 6, where everybody is at this point,
right?
And if Pietro is still around, because if suddenly she turns around, and he's gone, and some other characters are around,
right.
You wonder where we go. Well, she did blast him, and they still have to address that, mind you.
Yeah, so we'll see. But if Pietro is Mephisto, that would explain that they could leave Pietro dead by the end of the show.
Of course.
Yeah.
And they're just toying with our feelings. Oh, these writers are just so awful. They toy with our love for these characters.
Like, we know people care about these characters, so we're just going to twist the knife a little bit. Yeah. All right, topic number 2. Let's talk the Vision in his, like I said, shiny yellow basketball shorts. And Agnes, I want to talk about, who despite our speculation that she might be Agatha Harkness, she may end up turning out to be an innocent, like the other residents of Westfield. So we'll see. And then, so let's also talk about, the residents of Westfield in this. So Vision, Agnes, and everybody else in Westfield, as the Vision takes a little tour of the neighborhood. He's literally the neighborhood watch, sometimes from way, way above. As we get to he dropped the illusion, and we finally got to see the Vision that we remember from the Avengers movies. So what are your thoughts on the Vision as he is keeping secrets from Wanda about what he's really doing, and his awareness that something is wrong in Westfield?
Well, on one hand, I can't really blame him because she's been keeping stuff from him, and I think he's still pretty sore about that. And I can't blame him if he's sore about it because the woman that he trusts with everything and is supposed to be his soulmate and what have you, I think he feels terribly betrayed, and he's almost putting on a facade of, I'm going to just pretend everything's fine and dandy and then just kind of do my snooping on my own, which is literally what he does.
Right.
And there was a nice nod, or should we say, it reminded me of the show Once Upon a Time, because here we get the city limits, where there's a certain point where you can't go. And folks, if you haven't watched Once Upon a Time...
Storybrooke, yeah.
That's right. There is this town, of course, called Storybrooke, where there is literally the city limits. And if you exit the city limits, I believe you lose your memories of, who you were in the town. So it was a nice little touch there that at a certain point, the real world does obviously meet Westview, of course.
Yeah.
So
as Wanda says, she tells the kids, Tommy and Billy, don't go past Ellis Street.
And I think there's something in the fact that they wanted to particularly show us the sign Ellis Street, but I might touch up on that a little bit later. Yeah. But
is that a nod to the President Ellis from the Iron Man movie? Iron Man 3?
I wonder whether it was that, or I wonder whether it was the comic book writer, because Yeah, because the fact that granted he's never done any Vision or Wanda stuff,
Yeah.
but I wonder whether it could be a callback to his series Ruins from '95.
Maybe. Or he did
Because
a 6-issue run of Secret Avengers.
true, but the fact is though he never sort of, I believe, wrote Wanda or Vision. That was what I was wondering,
Yeah.
because it made me think of Ruins, because Ruins obviously shows like a lot of the Marvel heroes either dead or evil or mutated. So I wonder whether that was almost maybe a homage to
It's something to
Ruins.
consider. It's something to consider. Although we haven't seen any other comic book creator nods in the show.
No. So unless it is, like you said, a nod to President Ellis from just the MCU and keeping in continuity with the MCU. But that said, first off, Paul Bettany is able to rock a costume where I would look a dweeb in if I walked around in that. I mean, granted, it's okay. It's a pretty rubbish costume per se.
Yes.
But Paul Bettany makes it look good. As I said, I would look like a total dweeb in that. I probably would not be able to show my face.
It doesn't look that good, but it looks okay. Yes.
He's able to carry it off, but it's so nice when we get that morphing of the terrible cape turning into that regal Vision cape.
Yeah.
And and him kind of just soaring off. And the meeting with Agnes was so creepy.
Right.
I wouldn't say I was like, oh my, I was not biting my nails, but I was very invested in the moment. Because it's just like, he's trying to piece this together. He's literally our Agent Cooper in this, trying to figure out what is going on. And right. I love that.
Well, I've talked about how these circumstances with the residents of Westfield almost feel like a Twilight Zone episode. Specifically the Bill Mumy episode from the classics, where you have this boy who can affect reality, and the town is like essentially his prisoner, his play toys.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's the kind of vibe we get here, whereas the Vision's walking around through the streets, it does get really creepy because he sees people, like, it almost seems, interestingly, if they're not directly interacting with Wanda, or if Wanda doesn't need them, they essentially pause or slow way, way down. Or they're kind of like, just stuck in whatever they were doing at the time Wanda last saw them.
Yeah, it's kind of like puppets on a string, kind of being hung up and being picked up when needed, or like toys in a box. You're kind of taking them out of the box, and you're putting them aside, and you'll play with them later almost.
Yeah, I'm thinking in particular, there was a really powerful scene where Vision's seeing like this woman that's like hanging stuff up, like on a clothesline or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes through this repetitive motion of like, trying to pin something.
Yes.
And she can't stop. And she's got this pained expression on her face.
I believe she actually starts crying.
Yeah, there was like a slight tear that runs down her cheek. And just essentially you could almost hear her say, "Help me." Or kill me, perhaps. That she's essentially being tormented here.
Well, and we've seen that anybody that the Vision has liberated is so tormented. Be it Norm from the previous episode, or in this case, Agnes.
Yeah.
It's they're apparently living in this constant torment that Wanda has them under. So yes, that was a very I'm glad you brought that up, Charles, because it's a very strong image of this almost repetitive motion.
Yeah. It just was something that really got to me personally. Just like, holy crap, Wanda, what are you doing?
Yes. It was like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. There's something wrong with you. Something very, very wrong with you.
Yeah, that's why I wanted Gordon Ramsay to show me what's wrong with you.
You want to do the idiot sandwich gif? Yeah. What are you? What are you? An idiot sandwich? Yes.
Yeah, and the fact that there's and also nice touch on Wanda's part to put in children suddenly after Vision brought up the fact that there were no children.
Yeah. And that was something that Pietro asked her about. It's like, oh, hey, you have got kids around here now. Where were they before? Right?
Yeah.
But I want to get back to you where you're talking about Agnes, Vision
Mm.
with Agnes, because, like you said, it was a very powerful conversation where Agnes is she's kind of like in slow mode a little bit, sitting in behind her car. She's wearing, of all things, interestingly, a witch's costume.
Yeah.
So maybe she's Agatha Harkness, who's a witch, perhaps, but
Mm.
we'll see. And I think this is where a lot of the speculation came from, because we saw her in the trailers in that witch's costume
Yes.
before the show
Or it
started.
could just be, or we could just have been led by the nose and it's a red herring.
It could be. And then it's a very good red herring. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But Agnes, Vision's just perplexed by her. And as we saw in the previous episode, that he has this ability to kind of restore people's awareness. Why he has this ability, I still don't know.
Well, one of our friends on Twitter suggested the fact that maybe during that message the email that he and his folks at the office got from Sword, that may have unlocked it. I'm sorry if I cannot remember who had suggested. I believe it was Ken, I believe.
Maybe it was Ken. So hi, Ken. Thanks for suggesting that.
But I believe he'd suggest the fact, because we'd actually not addressed it in the previous episode, about that shared email that had arrived from Sword, and everybody, in the Vision's office were kind of repeating in these monotone, kind of words. And that might have been when Vision's powers were unlocked when it came. That was Ken, at least that's that. Yeah. I'm simply citing Ken's theory, so it could be that. If it is Ken, if it's not, I apologize to whoever did venture that theory. But
now, I have another theory that I want to propose. What if, because, with Wanda giving the Vision the ability to change his appearance, which he never had before in the real world.
Oh, no.
So that he could pose as normal human. What if, because of that, because he has this ability, it also gives him the ability to erase the illusion that Wanda is putting up.
So maybe she
unwittingly
gave him this extra thing, the fact that you can change yourself, so therefore you can also modify the rest of the surrounding reality.
Right, like he has a limited ability to change the reality.
That could also work too. But I feel so bad for Vision, because whenever he unlocks these people, they're more and more traumatized. And Agnes, I was just really, really feeling bad for. And what a stellar performance, because
Catherine Hahn was just really good.
Catherine Hahn, my witch hat goes off to you, ma'am, because you did a fantastic job there. Just the switching of the emotions of kind of almost being frozen behind the wheel, and then kind of, I don't know where I am, and I'm just kind of an innocent bystander. Then he brings her back. He's like, I think you should turn around. He's like, okie dokie. And she kind of, with that kind of very sort of crooked smile.
Right.
Ooh, that was strong. That really was.
What got me was, there was this, she kind of like goes off the deep end, because she tells, she asks Vision, are you dead?
And she keeps repeating, I'm sorry. You're dead.
No, I'm sorry. She says, am I dead? And he asked her, like, well, why would you think something like that? And she goes, because you're dead.
And then she keeps repeating it to him.
Yeah, and then she starts cackling, interestingly enough, like the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz.
Yes, that almost kind of hysterical cackle.
Yes. So, and then because of that, she just kind of just becomes completely unhinged. So the Vision, kind of like what he did with
Norm,
thank you, that he restores the fantasy to prevent her from suffering.
Yeah. It's terrible, though. It really is. And then that's when, as I said, she kind of snaps out and goes, okie dokie, and drives off. And I believe she was right on the within the city limits of Westview. She was about to apparently drive through the barrier.
Maybe she was trying to make her escape and got stuck because Wanda left the scene.
Yeah, and she was kind of like, that's why she kind of slowed down, like you said.
Yeah.
She's maybe driving out of Westview. It would have been interesting had she escaped, but
Yeah,
because that's when obviously the Vision obviously reaches out, because that's where the city limits are.
right. So, but yeah, I think if you're not interacting with either Vision or Wanda, you're probably just kind of like stuck there in pause, almost like in a video game where you have like a lot of NPC characters just standing there until you interact with them.
Very true. Yeah.
All right. So just very interesting stuff. And then the Vision that we get, I want to talk about this where the Vision attempts to leave Westfield. He keeps walking past Ellis Street. And and you really feel for him because he forces his way, literally forces his way through the barrier to the point where it's causing him pain. And you see the barrier, like strands from the barrier trying to draw him back in.
He's pulling pieces of his body out almost.
Yeah, like it's not willing to let him go. So because of that, chunks of his android body are falling off, going back into the dome, into the hex.
No.
But he's still struggling to the point where, and we'll talk about Hayward in a minute, but even Hayward is like, and I thought it was a really interesting comment he does. He's really trying to leave.
Mm.
So
and he's very, very obsessed with
he
Vision.
He really wants out. That's what he says. He says he
really wants
out.
Yes. And because you do wonder, had we seen him go through, whether obviously the reality would just have ended and she just would have slumped down as the corpse that he is.
That's what I think would have happened. As soon as he got far enough away from the hex, it would just be he collapses as a corpse.
Yeah, the spell would literally be broken.
Right.
So it's gross. And the fact that we always get these repetitive, almost maddening things like "you're dead, you're dead, you're dead." It was kind of like the "stop it" we'd gotten in.
That's a
what was
great,
it, episode 2, episode 3?
Episode 1. That was episode 1. Yeah,
that was
with the hearts at the dinner scene.
Yeah.
That's a great
comparison. Kind of reminded that.
That's a good connection you did. Excellent.
Thank you.
See, this is why I podcast with this man, people.
Well, thank you.
You think I'm going to pick slackers? No. No. Somebody's got to cover my ass. But yeah.
Well, you're great in your own right, Charles. But yes, I was kind of almost hoping, as I said, that Vision would make it through.
Right.
And there is an interesting obsession that Hayward does have with Vision, which we will get to.
All right. So, anything else about the Vision or Agnes or the people around Westfield?
I just feel so bad for Vision because I do really think that your theory about the multiple personalities might be a viable one.
Yeah.
And the fact, also, speaking of the first episode, the constant thing about Wanda being a witch and the whole evil thing has been played in before. Because talking about the hearts, when Mr. Hart said about Mrs. Hart, it's not a good thing if her head starts spinning around, it made me think of The Exorcist.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So the whole thing of, it could be the fact that we really do get a wicked witch, because maybe they give her that, because the thing is, here's the interesting thing, they've never called her the Scarlet Witch up until this point.
No, and that was something that Hayward brought up.
Yeah.
Because I think it was
what's her code name?
It was like Aspen, or last episode where he says, like she doesn't have any silly alias or whatever, silly code name, right? That we know of. And they go, no. Jimmy Woo says no. So maybe she'll finally get the Scarlet Witch code name out of this. Who knows?
Unless she becomes a Scarlet Witch because of the fact that she's a villain by the end of the thing, and the whole Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness thing, because granted, if the poster's anything to go by, Wanda looks pretty menacing in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness poster, where you see her like in the background with these flaming red eyes.
Kind of like those red eyes that we see at the very end of this episode.
Uh-huh. So that's why I think to myself, maybe by series end they will call her the Scarlet Witch for the fact that she is a menace. Because, there are such things as good witches. I'm not going to go on too long about this, but unfortunately the term witch usually has negative connotations.
Right. There are also white witches out there.
Of
So,
course, you know,
right, right.
I love witches.
Look
I
at
mean,
look at Glinda in the Wizard of Oz. There's a
of
good,
course.
as she says, there's a good witch and a bad witch.
Yes, but I do.
Or if you watch, kind of Wild at Heart, like on Ghostwood Twin Peaks
Yeah.
podcast, where you had Cheryl Lee playing a version of Glinda the Good Witch. That
Yes. Well, or just, you know, randomly Harry Potter, where
yeah,
witches are just a regular thing of just magical practitioners.
right. So,
But I wonder whether by the end of this show somebody might say the Scarlet Witch or something, and then blah blah blah.
yeah, yeah, maybe. That's one of the things that we talked about, whether she was going to stay the big bad by the end of WandaVision, leading up to the, like, maybe at the final episode, Wanda's so out of control nobody can stop her, and then we'll see Doctor Strange show up in a cameo at the very end, going like, "The Doctor is in" or whatever, and
I would love.
you know, like, or say something like, like, "I'm making a house call," whatever. I don't know.
What, Charles?
I can write better
missed,
dialogue than that. Trust me. But
but you missed your calling in life, sir. Where TV should have snapped you up by now.
well, thank you. If you know anybody, I'm available. I will write. I will gladly write for you. Right? I would write better dialogue than that. Trust me.
If the right people are listening, be sure to you know where to contact this guy.
Exactly. Yeah. If nothing else, I'll give you our contact information later at the end of this podcast. All right. All right. Let's move on. Topic number 3. Final topic. So this is kind of a big one because we have a lot of characters to cover here. So let's talk about Captain Monica Rambeau. And we get some very interesting developments with Monica. Darcy, who, like I said, gave me the, you can't leave it there cliffhanger, as we, she's horribly handcuffed to the side of a Jeep or whatever as the hex field expands over her.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Jimmy Woo. If there wasn't that much with Jimmy, if I recall correctly, though. We need to talk about Tyler Hayward, because
yes,
Tyler Hayward is another character to watch, and I have another theory about who he might be as well.
So do I. We'll be interested to see if we were on the same page.
Probably
are, because
we usually are.
I want to also send a shout out to our third co-host Jesse, who actually called the fact that Hayward was not all he seemed.
Right.
So definitely want to shout out to Jesse, who unfortunately is not with us today. Hopefully he'll be able to be with us next week. Yeah. But I definitely want to send a shout out to Jesse on catching that one.
Yeah, I want to. Since you brought it up, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the episode, so I apologize. But Jesse, once again, is the victim of horrible scheduling that I just blew up unintentionally this time because, well, hey, there's this little thing called Valentine's Day. And as it turns out, my wife, Lori, go figure, is interested in having dinner with yours truly. Her husband.
What a concept, right? That's crazy.
What a wacky idea, right? So therefore, we weren't able to record on our normal Sunday evening, at late afternoon, early evening time slot. So therefore, Nick and I are doing it a day early, which is great for you guys because you get WandaVision, our latest thoughts on the WandaVision, a little early. Yeah. But sadly, Jesse's not able to do that because of his commitments to his wife. So I want to apologize once again for Jesse not being able to participate. So hopefully, because apparently February has an in for me, and in for this podcast, like stupid February, but hopefully we'll get back on track and Jesse will join us next week. Fingers crossed.
Yes. For the final 3. I really, really hope so.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm going to try really hard not to screw that up, but we'll see what happens. All right. So yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. So Captain Rambeau, Darcy, Jimmy Woo, Tyler Hayward, and I was going to call them the Agents of S.W.O.R.D., but maybe I should call them the Agents of Circus. C
nice.
Period, I period, R period, C period, U period, S period. Because as it turns out, at the end of this episode, Wanda gets a little revenge on our rather hostile agents of S.W.O.R.D.
That she does.
And kind of portrays them as the clowns that they are in her eyes. Yeah. Yes. So, all right, big topic. So, you want to talk about Monica first?
Let's address Monica, maybe the trio before we get to, should we say, in inverted commas, possibly one of the big bads in this show, if he does turn out to be the big bad that
that's kind of where the episode kind of builds up. So that makes sense. All right. So let's talk about Monica. Monica, as it turns out, is really desperate to get back into the Hex.
Yeah.
This is something that she tells Hayward, that, she's concerned that, for one thing, she wants to help Wanda, which is great. Shows you what kind of person Monica is. She senses that she's in pain. She wants to help her. Yeah. But she also she makes this comment that if Wanda is the problem, she has to be our solution.
Correct.
Now, unfortunately, Hayward doesn't see it that way. But so Monica is like, okay, screw you. I'm contacting our mysterious aerospace engineer, presumably.
Yeah.
And she's made plans, as we kind of piece together. It's not very clearly stated, but it's kind of implied that she was going to meet him on the outskirts of the Hex for some equipment that she could use to get back into the Hex.
Yeah.
If I understood that correctly. Am I right
no,
about that?
That's what I got, and I was just saying, please give us Reed Richards. Please give us Reed Richards.
Right. And she keeps checking her phone, like looking for messages, like, okay. And so this is kind of why we see her out there by the Hex, driving around, presumably to have that rendezvous with whom we're hoping is Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, or the future Mr. Fantastic. We'll see. So fingers crossed. But
yes, indeed.
But of course things go a little sideways with the Hex, so maybe that won't happen.
Or we find the guy's like, where are you? Kind of looking at his watch, going, where is she?
Right. Now, see, that could be like a post-credit scene. Yeah. Like, I was waiting for you, or
a gray temple-haired guy looking at his watch. That would be a nice little close, I think.
Fingers crossed. So we'll see. But one of the other things coming on with Monica is Darcy has kind of pieced together that if Monica does go back into the Hex, it would be bad because apparently her body chemistry has already been altered because she's gone through that twice.
Yeah.
Remember the first time when she got sucked in initially when she was out there with Jimmy?
Yeah, that's right.
And then later again when Wanda kicked her out of the Hex.
That's right.
So that's two. So Darcy's like, look, if you go in the third time, who knows what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, Nick and I, being comic book geeks, realize, well, she might want to go ahead and do that because that's probably going to give her superpowers.
Yes, and we might find you get Photon or whoever, whatever
they end up calling her. Photon, Spectrum, as she's known these days. So, probably not Captain Marvel.
No. Seeing also how rough she feels about Captain Marvel, and Hayward kind of rubs that in as well when it comes to that too.
But obviously that could make that reunion really awkward because if they both have powers, so we'll see. Yeah. But that would kind of be like the traditional, like, oh hey, we have to have the superheroes fight before they team up to fight the bad guy.
Which has happened in comics how many times, Charles? Countless times?
1,000,006, yes.
Yeah, every single new member of the Avengers
always
ends up throwing down with the Avengers, like, oh, you're kind of all right. Let's go and have a beer. And everybody's Avengers.
It's one of those that, don't these guys just like ever go out like, okay, hey, you're a superhero, I'm a superhero. You want to go for like some burgers and a beer maybe?
Yeah, let's talk about this.
Let's just kind of hang out, you know. Let's not fight for once. But nope, not so much. So what did you make of Monica, her fixation on trying to rescue Wanda, and also this development about that she may get her powers?
Well, I do feel that her mom, Maria, has taught her well, and she's always seen the good in people. And I think she really does believe that she can reach Wanda. And I think she does. I think she's one of those optimists, if you will, who wants to always see the good in folks and wants to be diplomatic rather than, Hayward's approach of shoot first, ask questions later. She's like, let's talk to the person before we try to blast them into space or destroy them. And what irked me a little bit, maybe it's just me, but why does everybody keep calling her Rambo and not Rambeau, as you rightfully say, Charles?
Yeah, it's Rambeau. It's
exactly.
Rambeau. Beau. Rambeau.
Exactly. But I keep hearing everybody on the show calling her Rambo. I'm like, it's not John Rambo.
Well, the character, when she was created in the comics, was from New Orleans.
Exactly.
New Orleans, Louisiana. So it's got to be
French surname.
It's got to have a little bit of a Cajun flair when you say Rambeau. Yeah. So yeah, Monica Rambeau.
Yes.
Kind of like
I know that
kind of like Gambit. If you said Remy LeBeau, same thing.
Yes, that's why it kind of irked me a little bit. Maybe it's just me that just did not sit well with me, but that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, because I got to wonder that everybody that like on Twitter thinks her last name is spelled Rambo, like Rambo, John Rambo,
yes. Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone's character.
Yeah, it's like it's not Rambo, but anyway, I just love this character. I think she wants to, as I said, I think she's just good-hearted and wants to see the good in people and feels that. Plus, she's had her brush with superheroes. She's, obviously knows Carol,
right,
and what have you. And I think she really does believe that Wanda is good at heart, and she just needs somebody to talk to and kind of talk her off the ledge, rather than attack her. And just the fact that she really wants to get to the bottom of it and her connections. I would love to have a look at her phone, because you can only imagine what kind of names she must have on there.
Yeah, can you imagine that contact list? Holy crap, that would be so cool.
Yes. It reminded me a little bit. I believe it was Gotham. I think it was, where we have like the names being scrolled through and all the great DC characters going through. And I was like, it was Titans actually. I think it was actually Titans.
Like, here's Reed Richards. Here's going through the phone. Yeah.
No, remind me of that. I think it was actually Titans, where we had a close up on Dick Grayson's phone, and you had all the names of these great characters from the DC universe. Right. And so it would have been kind of neat to have that. Maybe we might have that down the line.
Maybe we will get that. Who knows? Yeah.
Oh, because they know that us geeks would love to just do the pause and look at all the names that.
Here's Charles Xavier.
I would love that, but no, I just think she's such a good-hearted character, and every time that she does meant that Captain Marvel is also brought up, I just feel so bad that that she feels wronged by her. And, and once again, one of our followers or listeners actually brought up the fact of making a comparison of Doctor Who with, of course, what was it, the 11th Doctor, I believe it was, and who was it now? The name escapes me. Pond, of course.
Oh, it was her. Amy Pond. Yeah.
Amy Pond, that's right.
Yeah.
And it
Karen
was kind
Gillan's
of that
character.
relationship.
So yeah,
it was the relationship, or was the Amy Pond with the 11th Doctor, and that's how almost kind of like the way Monica feels about Captain Marvel. That said, I just love this character so much. I want to see more of her, and I love that Jimmy Woo got a badass moment when he decks the guy. I was like so happy. He turns around and punches one of the folks in sword. I was like, you tell him, Jimmy.
That's right. We're all rooting for Jimmy, and we're definitely rooting for that sword spin-off with Jimmy and Darcy, right?
Yeah, because it shows that Jimmy can hold his own. Because while they're kind of being escorted away out of the sword facility, you think that'd be something that Monica would do. No, it's Jimmy who turns around and punches the guy in the face, and off they go to a new adventure. So I really appreciate how tight that team is.
Right, because they've kind of made like Jimmy a little bit of a dorky character, so it's kind of cool that hey, he gets to be a little bit of a action man in the process.
Yeah, he turns on and boom, just decks him like Captain America with Hitler, just
Yeah.
right in the jaw.
He is an FBI agent. Presumably, he knows how to punch. Presumably,
you'd hope so. For
hopefully,
sure.
he's had a little bit of combat training. Hopefully,
so I really dug that with Darcy. Granted,
we need to talk about.
We
need to talk about.
We didn't
Darcy.
get much. I am thinking to myself, since now we're in the 2000s,
right?
What if now she's recast as her character from Two Broke Girls?
Oh, some people have speculated this that if presumably that would be a fun little way to do an Easter egg, was that Darcy would be cast as a waitress in a diner or something.
Yeah,
yeah, as a nod to that show, Two Broke Girls, the sitcom that she was on.
It's almost too juicy an opportunity to pass up.
Right.
When you're doing a homage to sitcoms, and that was one of the more recent sitcoms, I believe it was like 2010, 2011, if memory serves.
Yeah, so that would be time. That would be for the next episode. That would be about right?
I think it would be kind of neat that she wakes up and she's like kind of dressed in the uniform on the table of the diner, and Wanda shows.
Oh no, not again.
Yeah, it would be a nice little nod, I think, too. That's where I think it might end up, but it's hard to say because she completely disappears. And I like the you pointed out that Wanda turns the agents of S.W.O.R.D. into clowns because that's the way she perceives them.
Right.
Which made me a little bit think of the Greek myth of Circe with Odysseus or Ulysses and his crew, because to her men are pigs, and she turns them into pigs.
Homer. Yeah.
So it kind of made me go to my Greek mythology, which I so love so much. Like, oh yeah, she sees them as clowns, she turns them into clowns.
Well, Circe was a sorcerer, so it fits, right?
Yeah, and I believe there actually is a Circe in the Marvel comics, isn't there?
I know there is.
That DC?
That's DC. DC has DC. Circe is one of Wonder Woman's arch enemies. So yeah.
Okay, so maybe there's not one in the MCU.
They might have one, but I think it's maybe a minor character. Because it's Greek mythology, so it's public domain. They could have one if they wanted.
They might do because after all, in the Marvel comics, they have a character who we have yet to see, who might see someday, who's Hercules,
right?
Who has never made an appearance and might be our next strongman, but maybe
yet.
It's too on the nose.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. Now, before Darcy gets enveloped by the expanded hex field. She stays behind while apparently Jimmy and Monica go out driving to presumably hook up with whom we're hoping is Reed Richards.
Yeah, because she's hacking into the S.W.O.R.D. system, right?
Yeah, she makes this comment like, okay, well, I want to see if I can hack into something because I think Hayward's up to something. Turns out she finds what we're told is some kind of for your eyes only kind of file called Cataract, Classified Weapons Intel. Now we have no idea what Cataract is. It doesn't exist in the comics.
In fact, because I immediately went to my Marvel encyclopedia and flipped through it, and I couldn't find anything.
Everybody went to do that Google search and came up empty on this one. So we don't know what he's up to, but presumably maybe this is something to either take Wanda down or something that Wanda is being used for.
It could very well be.
So we don't know. But I kind of wonder, it's very interesting. I'm trying to figure out exactly what Hayward's up to. And,
well, it could play into the theory we have of who he might be.
Right. And now, it also could be that Hayward is also Mephisto.
That's one theory. That there are a couple of others that I kind of spitballed around in my head while I was kind of sort of messaging people at the weirdest hours in the morning. Among these, Christine Peruski, who I apologize to.
Hi, Christine. Yes, we mentioned you again.
Yes, we did. Because I actually went back to look at some of the MCU stuff.
Right.
Either he's randomly connected to Brian Hayward, who was an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who actually who was a Hydra operative during the Centipede project.
That's an interesting deep dive you just did.
So there's either that, because obviously Brian Hayward, who was actually played by Paul Lacovara, but it wasn't like such a huge character, but he was an agent of Hydra during the Centipede project, so it could be that.
Okay.
Or could he possibly be Ultron in disguise?
That's an interesting theory. I don't know.
Because he's so focused on the Vision and he wants to get rid of the Scarlet Witch, or Wanda, as she's yet to have her name. And the fact that Wanda almost recognizes him, if you will, when she looks at him, the prior episode where she turned the guns on him, she said, "You took everything away from me before, or everything was taken from me away from me before. It's not going to happen again."
Yeah.
So you wonder whether she almost might see through him.
No, that theory is perfectly valid as far as I'm concerned. It's a solid theory. But if I go back to my Mephisto theory, it would explain why he opened fire on Wanda to agitate her. That he's intentionally trying to make this situation worse. That he
to get a rise out of her.
To get a rise out of her, and then also because he wanted Wanda to push back. So, like he has, as Pietro, he's pushing her buttons. As Dottie, he was, or she, take your pick gender wise, was antagonizing Wanda.
Yes.
Now as Hayward, he's threatening her and acting like he wants to kill her.
Yeah.
To get a rise out of her.
Yeah. But that theory is more than viable too. I mean, that's why, because, it could, be that Mephisto is able to happily exit Westview without a problem.
Right.
And just be
and
outside.
then when he saw the Vision come through the hex, that he's almost kind of almost amused by it.
This is actually trying to leave.
Yeah,
I can't believe what the quote was now, but you'd actually.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Let's see if I can find it here in my notes. Where is it here? I can't find it. Oh well.
But it was words to the effect.
Oh yeah. He really does want out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's what he says. So he's kind of like, he really wants out. Interesting.
And it seems like he's very much focused on the Vision. It almost seems, I'm not saying an obsession, but almost, because I believe even Darcy was saying that she noticed there was a lot of this focus on this vibranium body. Because obviously the Vision is made of vibranium.
Right.
That's why it kind of made me also think of Ultron, who in the comics, his body is also made of vibranium. I can't recall if in the MCU he's also made of vibranium or not.
Yeah.
But
that's a good theory, because if he's not Ultron, he could be someone working for Ultron. That maybe he wants the Vision to get his body and use that to give Ultron a new body.
Because Age of Ultron has been referenced a lot in this show.
Right.
I mean, it's inevitable that you would, but
because
it seems
because of Pietro, yeah.
But it seems like almost even more so, and the fact that obviously Ultron probably harbors great resentment towards Vision, especially for having destroyed his last body at the end of Avengers: Age of Ultron. So I don't know.
Everybody got that? I know we're getting really deep in the woods here, but so I apologize if we're all over the place. I get it. Probably your guys are probably listening to this going like, will you guys just get on with it already? But that's what happens here. We kind of went down the rabbit hole. I know some of you out there really enjoy it when we do that, but maybe some of you don't. So I apologize if that's the case.
So do I. I'm sorry, folks. Our geekiness sometimes runs away with us.
It does. Sometimes we get a little carried away. I apologize. All right. But that's something very interesting to consider you brought up. So.
But that's that shows you how good this show is. Yeah. It has us spinning out theories, or
Yeah.
at episode 6,
Yeah.
with 3 episodes left, because by now, maybe in a traditional show, most of the reveals would have come out already, or we would know much more.
Right.
They've been very good with the cards they're showing you.
Yeah. I just think right now it's interesting that there seem to be several characters intentionally trying to aggravate Wanda.
For what exactly? And you think to yourself, for what end?
For what
Or
purpose?
to what end?
What's the purpose? Yeah. And as a result, one of the things that happens is because of Wanda being upset, the hex field gets expanded. So we see it like envelop the sword base and start pushing all the way into like, the outskirts of town. So like it covers like a gas station and some other things. So it extends past the city limits.
You wonder whether it went past the state limits of New Jersey at this point.
We don't know where it stopped, honestly. So maybe we'll find out next episode. But essentially it's like, one is pissed and like, okay, you're going to keep trying to, won't let me be in my home. Well, fine. I'll just extend the range of my home.
Yeah, and obviously the straw that broke the camel's back is she's almost furious the fact about the Vision is trying to leave.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously what sets her off. Because Wiccan actually tells her. Now I'm tentatively calling him Wiccan,
right?
But he tentatively warns her that Dad's dying or is not feeling well, or whatever. And that kind of sets her off, and like boom, she's off like a shot. And that's really where everything comes to a head.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Otherwise, it just, next episode may be, hey, Billy and Tommy get to go to the circus.
Which would be a nice tie into American Horror Story.
It would. Yep.
Since you did have those killer clowns that everybody was terrified by.
Exactly. That's a good point. All right. Anything else about this episode as we're sitting here frustrated by that please stand by test pattern sign?
Yes, I've come to hate it, for all the right reasons.
Right.
Simply because I just want more. Charles, I'm just so happy with this show. I really, really am. And I'm actually glad that we got this before we got the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, I'm sure the Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be just as good.
Right.
But I wonder whether that would actually have been more of a paint by numbers classic MCU style.
It certainly looks like it. It certainly looks like, okay, it's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier starring in their own Captain America TV show.
Yeah.
So,
which I believe was the original.
Which there's nothing wrong with, because I love the Captain America movies.
Not at all.
So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think this is, this really starts off huge, and maybe it just kind of worked out. The universe kind of said, no, we need to have WandaVision start first.
Yes, and so I just love it so much, and like everybody,
maybe it was Wanda herself. Ooh.
She changed the MCU. She changed the MCU schedule. Wow, that's big, man.
See, this is the way. This is the disturbing way, I think, as a writer. Yes.
But I love it. No, but I'm just, I like everybody. Friday cannot come fast enough. I just really find myself. It's like you almost are kind of hoping you get all the episodes at once, but at the same time you like the tease.
Yeah. For those of us who are like older and we're used to appointment television, that we don't just sit there and binge watch shows, this is perfect for us because it gives us something to look forward to. It's like the end of a work week. It's been a long week. Maybe you went out for comics during the middle of the week on Wednesday, like yours truly. But Friday is that nice little payoff where you can go out, grab some burgers, bring them back. Like I tell Zan, it's Five Guys Friday, so we go to the Five Guys burger place that's right around the corner, bring them back, and we sit there and watch WandaVision and get our minds blown.
Yeah, and I just love that.
Yeah, it's a great way to end the week. Okay, do you have any favorite quotes of this episode?
I had a couple. The first one was actually the exchange between Pietro and Wanda, where Pietro's like, hey, I'm not some stranger and I'm not your husband. You can talk to me. And Wanda's like, I don't know how I did it. I only remember feeling completely alone, empty. endless nothingness. It's like, crikey, that was cold.
Yeah, really, right? And then I think that's where she sees him revealed as the corpse.
That's right. Yeah, when she says the endless nothingness,
yeah,
it just cuts to...
And then bam, zombie Quicksilver. Yeah.
Yes. And then the other one that I thought, once again, the exchange between Pietro and Wanda. I can't believe you're making them return all the candy. And one's like, I can't believe what a bad influence you are. And he's like, who beefed in your borscht?
Right.
I'm just trying to do my part, okay? Come to town unexpectedly, create tension with the brother-in-law, stir up trouble with the Rugrats, and ultimately give you grief. I mean, that's what you wanted, isn't it?
And that last part is what's really telling here, where he says, I mean, that's what you wanted, isn't it? So, if it's Mephisto, it's like, you kind of wanted a Pietro, right? So here you go. Be careful what you wish for.
And now I might actually adopt the phrase "who beefed in your borscht" because that's actually rather clever.
Right. Maybe they had a lot of borscht because it was so close to the Soviet Union or the Russia at the point. Sokovia is in that Eastern Europe. All right. A couple quotes I liked was, let's see, Tommy saying, Halloween is about candy and scaring people, but mostly candy.
Amen, brother.
That was good. Wanda telling her son Tommy, if you're going to break the sound barrier, please just take your brother with you.
It was fun.
That was good. And Agnes with Vision saying, you're one of the Avengers. You're Vision. Are you here to help us? And Vision replies, I'm Vision. I do want to help. But what's an Avenger? Agnes is like, what? Why don't you know? Am I dead? Vision goes, no. Why would you think that? And Agnes replies, because you are.
Yes.
Ooh, creepy.
Yeah, boom.
That's where you do the Doctor Who sting.
So you see the TARDIS spinning around.
Yeah. Oh, and I love Darcy's line where she goes to Hayward. She sees Hayward and she goes, hey, it's the guy who almost got murdered by his own murder squad.
Oh, Kat Dennings, God bless you, really.
Yeah, she's great. All right, so what's your rating, sir?
I'm going to give this 8.5 out of 10 Smashing Pumpkins.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. I'm a little bit more generous than you. I think this was another solid 9 from me. So I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 Scarlet Witch headpieces.
Perfect.
Yeah, so because it was very nice that we got to see that in this episode.
Yes.
Probably we'll never get to see it again, but I'm going to enjoy it while it lasted. So.
I actually had one last thing to ask you, Charles. Was it just me, or was Evan Peters channeling Jim Carrey?
No, I think he was just trying to be glib, almost more like...
kind of the mannerisms and the whole kind of facial expressions and stuff, but maybe it was just me.
I think it was just more like he was trying to be cocky. And, almost kind of like he was in the X-Men movies.
Okay. Yeah. Because I half expected at one point to go, alrighty then.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's just the tone of voice, perhaps.
Yeah, that's what it was. It kind of made it was just my passing thought of mine.
It's who knows? Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out. Phantom Zone news. We got a lot of mail to talk about. So probably just really quick, I want to just mention that the CW gave a TV pilot order for DC Comics Naomi. Which is a really good series. I recommend it. It's only a 6-issue miniseries. But the character has gone on to appear in Young Justice and will be appearing, next month in Brian Bendis' Justice League series.
Yep. In fact, I made sure to pick it up.
Yeah, so it's going to be produced by Ava DuVernay, who is going to be the director of the New Gods movie.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, so I can't wait for that. Essentially DC's version of the Eternals, if you're wondering. Only much, much better. Even though both were created by Jack Kirby.
Yes. So it's hard to kind of say, which
Yeah.
was best. It's both King Kirby who created them.
Yeah, but I thought that was kind of cool. And then this past week, because as someone who actually speaks both languages, geek and sports, I watched the Super Bowl and got to see the Falcon and the Winter Soldier first trailer that appeared during the Super Bowl. And even though we got a more extended version online, that of course teased the return of Baron Zemo and Sharon Carter. So what did you make of? Now you say you don't kind of stay away from trailers.
I avoid them like the plague, but it was almost impossible to kind of steer it because once again, when my main line of activity and work also for the clients, the country music clients I work with, deals with Facebook.
Right.
You can't not see it, and you can't unsee it at this point. But I'm excited. I really am because Baron Zemo has always been a character that I really, really enjoyed. I suppose, hating Nazis, always wanted to see evil Nazis.
I hate those guys.
Yes.
I hate these guys. Yes.
So it's I was excited about it because and it looks like we might get the purple hood.
The mask. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah. So, did you watch the trailer at all, or did you?
I did not.
Okay, so you restrained. So I won't go into it, but it's pretty cool, and essentially it's the vibe it gives off is, without spoiling it, this is essentially a kind of like buddy cop movie where the two cops antagonize each other.
Steel and Stone.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, Steel and Stone, getting it done. No,
I missed Doom Patrol. I'm sorry, Charles.
Yeah, I know. No, that's fine. That was that's something we talked about on Titan Talk. So, yeah, if you want to hear that rant, or not really a rant, but that discussion, it was pretty funny. Go check out Doom Patrol Season 2 when we were talking about that on Titan Talk. All right, Phantom Zone fan mail. Like I said, we got a lot.
Yeah.
So hopefully my voice holds out. All right, and I'm running low on drinks, so fingers crossed.
If you want to share them with me, Charles and I, if you need me to read them, I'm happy to do that for you if needs be.
Yeah, I mean, it might take a while to give you because you don't have my email address or the email password that I need to give. No, I don't. I need to give that. I do need to give that to you. It's a good reminder for later. I will do. So, but I will give that to you. So, something I need to get done. So David K. Proctor writes in. He wrote in actually 6 days ago, so he got a little late because we recorded early. If we had recorded when we were supposed to, it would have been on time. So apologies to David. But so this is what he's talking about for last episode. He says, "Hi folks, this show is getting better and better every week. It's so exciting. I'm loving it.
Yay!
I really dug the Family Ties look and opening. I think the trio that are working together outside are setting up for a spinoff like y'all said." So presumably talking about Darcy and Monica and Jimmy.
Yeah.
"I think Wanda is ready to crack." Ooh, you think? "I think this will be a dangerous time, and ironically, Vision is the only one talking sense." Right? "Another good prediction you made, Charles, when you said that you think Wanda is animating Vision's corpse." Thank you.
You called that one.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the vibe I got. "I don't know where this show can go with another season, but I'm hooked. Agnes is a real puzzle. Perhaps the Mephisto prediction will come true." Well, now here, just one episode later, we're already thinking maybe Agnes is just another innocent, and Mephisto is other people. So we'll see.
Mephisto is other people.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Hashtag Mephisto is other people. "This podcast is as exciting as the show." Well, thank you, Dave.
Cheers, man.
Keep up the very excellent work. Stay safe, stay well, stay safe, stay sane. Well, that last one's always dubious with me. Thank you, David K. Proctor. So thank you, Dave. That's his first email.
Much appreciated.
We'll break it up a little bit here because I got an email from the Batman.
Again? So Batman watches Marvel shows? Crazy.
I don't know if you can see that or not, but
yes, I can.
The Batman has sent me some emails. So
he has traveled to the Marvel realm.
Yeah. So actually what this is Chris from Colorado writing in.
Oh yes, big Avalanche fan. I remember. To
Yep.
throw my hockey
Yeah,
my obligatory hockey reference.
exactly. So, yours truly being the Blue Jackets fan, Nick being the Montreal Canadiens fan. So,
Yeah, and we've got an
and
Avalanche fan
and
writing to
Zan we
us.
won't talk about because she's a Red Wings fan. So we give
The
her
less said, the better.
less said the better, right? Okay. Sorry, Zan, but
We love you. We love you otherwise. But
exactly. We love you otherwise, apart from your horrible, horrible taste in hockey teams. All right. Okay, so Chris from Colorado writes in. It's been a while, so welcome back. He says, "Hi guys, I was listening to your last episode review of WandaVision. Thought I would throw a couple of theories in the ring.
Hmm.
First, I want to give some fun facts about the show. First, during production, it was given the code name Big Red, and they filmed all those sitcom scenes in front of an actual studio audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that. The reason they were able to keep that part secret was because it was friends and family of those who worked on the show.
Ooh, nice.
Now, that I didn't know. So that's cool. On your last pod, you asked where did Evan Peters' Quicksilver come from? If you go back and listen to the audio description for the seeing impaired, the visually impaired, it says Wanda opens the door and sees Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe, unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's actually from the Foxverse.
Yep.
Yep. My final theory, I have to disagree with you guys. When Norm says make her stop, I think she means Mr. Hart, right? Oh, no. But Norm in the office, right?
Yes.
Norm in the office, I'm sorry. So I don't think he's referring to Wanda, but I think he's Agatha Harkness or Dottie. So maybe he thinks Dottie's doing something, but if that's Mephisto, like my theory.
Or we could throw in a whole new.
Yeah, whole new thing, right? Yeah. One final thought. You said, you guys, when Vision uses his, quote, new power to release Norm's mental hypnosis, we actually saw him do the same thing to Ultron, essentially, but in reverse. Yeah. Sorry for the long email. Sorry for the email, a long email. I'm so glad to be part of this journey with the Phantom Zone cast. Thank you all for what you do. You're the highlight of my week! !
Aww.
Yay! Thanks, Chris.
Cheers, Chris.
Yeah, cheers, Chris.
Hope you're enjoying the hockey season thus far. Your Avalanche are ever amazing, and I am seriously envious of your Avalanche. I'm just going to say that.
As should we all, right? So, Chris apparently had a final thought. So he sent a separate email.
Ooh, okay.
Says, sorry, I forgot I have one more theory. I think the engineer that Monica was referring to and was about to text was actually Rhodey or Riri Williams. Meaning Ironheart, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
Who's essentially like a young female version of Tony Stark.
Well, there had been teased that Ironheart might make an appearance, and after all, War Machine is still around and well, so it could be.
It's a thought. I know they are going to be introducing Ironheart, giving her. They've got a series plan for her, so that's certainly a possibility as well.
Yeah. Well pointed out there, Chris. Sure.
Stay classy, Chris from Colorado. So that's Chris.
Cheers, Chris.
To appreciate the 2 emails. Definitely appreciate you listening, and we definitely try to be the highlight of your week.
We really appreciate it,
because
yes.
that says a lot. Because if we're the highlight of your week and WandaVision isn't, that's a very big compliment as far as I'm concerned.
We're definitely it's very flattering indeed.
Yeah. So now we're just sitting here with swelled heads. Holly Mack writes in once again.
Yay!
Yay, Holly.
Hey, Holly.
So Holly from Wisconsin. We got Chris from Colorado, Holly from Wisconsin. So see, we're all over the United States. Apparently Italy needs to represent. I'm just saying.
Yes, I'm going to have to yell at my fellow Italians or fellow Europeans in that regard.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't have just the country. You got to deal with the whole
continent.
Whole continent, right? Yeah. So that's your region. I've got North America, so I got to deal with Canada too, and Mexico, I guess. All right. Okay. Hey, Charles, Jesse, and Nick. Well, sadly, like I said, Jesse's not with us, but hopefully next week, fingers crossed.
Indeed.
If February doesn't screw us over again. The intro to this episode was interesting, and I loved it. Of course, the twins would be fascinated by their Uncle Pietro. Sokovian fortune teller is your costume, Wanda. I sense a little sarcasm there. The trick or treating scene outside when the twins reminded me slightly of E.T. The Yo Magic yogurt commercial had a dark twist near the end, but it brought back memories of some 90s commercials that used claymation in them. Yeah, I think that
a lost art indeed.
Yeah, it is. It is. Vision helping Agnes, trying to be less confused when he found her, and then him getting confused when she mentions that he was an Avenger and that he was dead. Wondering if the way Ellis was brightly lit at the stop sign means anything. Well, we speculated about that. Let's see what else. Monica's blood tests are just a little bit scary. Is this leaning towards Monica herself becoming a mutant? Well, it's a good question. Although technically, wouldn't she be an altered human instead of a mutant?
I suppose we're meta-human at that point, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like the Flash, because the Flash isn't a mutant. But Quicksilver is, because he was presumably born with that power.
Correct. Yes.
That's the distinction. Pietro calling out Wanda for hiding the rest of the kids until now, and how she managed to do that, or how she managed to do what she's done. I think she's beginning to realize how much power she has and what she's been using it for without remembering it. Though I'm really thinking it might be starting to dawn on her that something else is going on when she sees the bullet wounds in Pietro's chest.
Yeah.
Vision going through the portal and trying to make it out and warn the others and the end results. Man, do not tick off Wanda, right? Seriously. Don't make her angry. You wouldn't like her when she's angry. Oh, wait, that's somebody else.
Yes. So a little bit with a little bit more green and
yeah, less scarlet, more green, right? Okay. Darcy was right. They should have been trying to help Vision right off the bat. Yeah, if you notice, Darcy's right a lot.
People should listen to Darcy, folks.
Yes, they should. Yes, they should, especially a certain Hayward, right?
Mm-hmm.
These last final episodes are going to be something, I think. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you very much, Holly.
Lovely as always, Holly. Thank you so much. We always appreciate it. And last, but certainly not least, the second Dave Proctor email. This one about this week's episode.
Okay. Hello again, Dave.
Hello again, Dave. See, I told you we had a lot of emails.
I love it.
Hello, everyone. I am hoping everyone includes Jesse this week. Whoops. So,
ouch. Okay.
Yeah. That's,
moving right along.
Moving right along. Yes. First off, and he put this in all caps. Wow! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark!
You made Rachel Maddow happy right there, Charles.
Thank you. That's an in-joke. So Charles's Facebook post was not kidding. My Facebook posts never kid, Dave. Except when they do. This was a big episode. Well, you're very welcome, Dave. I am rarely hanging on every little moment and syllable of the show like I am on this one, and my wife is just as hooked as I am. Cool.
Nice.
I bet this 40-minute episode spawns a 2-hour podcast from you folks, and that is fine. Well, as it turns out...
You might be right on that one.
Because Jesse, like I said, is not here to keep us in line. I need someone to break it down for me and deliver the bits in bite-sized pieces. Computer pun intended. Darcy and the soldiers are inside now. They are the only two on the outside that have a chance of doing anything to help. Presumably she means Monica and Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is clowns, I guess, at this point. So
yeah, or something else. Waitresses, like we talked about. Yeah. I like that the military element became a circus. What else would people who live in tents and survive on bad food become?
Nice.
That's funny. Wanda is losing her grip. Her sphere was already difficult to control around the edges, but as a sphere, expands in radius, its volume expands by an order of magnitude rate that will be really pushing her powers. Nicely expressed, Dave.
Yes.
In astrophysics, a star expanding like this goes supernova or burns out and dies or collapses into a black hole. None of these are good for New Jersey. No, not in the slight. Yeah, the idea that this would go all singularity, not good, right?
No, but I don't think it would be good news for the rest of the US of A either.
Yeah, not good. Because, black holes have a way of kind of sucking everything into it. Yeah, that's bad. But appreciate the astrophysics there, Dave.
Thank you for that.
It has, as a physics geek, I totally appreciate that. It has been a long time since any show kept me this hooked week to week. Your podcast equally, or maybe more. So, excellent, Dave. Excellent.
Wow.
So, we're really getting the compliments this week. So, thank you guys.
Really, really appreciate it. I mean, wow, man.
To quote Sally Field, you like us. You really, really like us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You guys seem to pick up on pieces I missed and excites me even more. Keep up the good work and stay healthy! ! Thank you, Dave Proctor.
Thank you, Dave. And may I just quickly say, it is of course the Fandom Zone podcast, so it is all about you guys out there, our listeners. So, just thank you so much for this the show of support and just chiming in and stuff. It really makes it even more worthwhile because I think, Charles, I mean, I believe I can really speak for you possibly and Jesse as well. We already have a blast just sitting around and talking about this, but it just makes it so cool that, the fandom interacts with us.
We love having a community. This is why we always encourage everybody to write in because we want to hear your thoughts and we want to have you guys share your enthusiasm as we're sharing our enthusiasm. So
indeed,
this goes both ways. It's like it says right there on the label, the Fandom Zone podcast. So we're here in this Fandom Zone, although hopefully not as bad as being in the Hex. Hopefully it's a little more fun and less sad tears strolling down the side of your cheek.
Yes, your experience hopefully is less traumatic than the folks at Westview.
Yes. We don't want to be Westview. If we're giving you tears like that, we want to give you tears of joy. How's that? All right, that's our goal. But, yeah, we really appreciate you guys. All the compliments are just, we love them.
It means the world.
And your checks are in the mail, as always.
Yes.
All right, so if you want to be like, hey, I got to run this down, Dave, Chris, Holly, and again, Dave, write to us at fandomzonecast@gmail.com. That's fandomzonecast@gmail.com. And you can reach us on Twitter at FandomZoneCast on Twitter, Facebook, the Fandom Zone Podcast, or Instagram at Fandom Zone Podcast. And Nick, where can they hear you? And all of your other wonderful, wonderful things that you say.
Well, thank you, Charles. Well, to give you also a breather from all that reading, when it comes to
yes,
yes, you get to take a break.
This is all I got left. These little few droplets of tea that I've got here.
So while Charles takes a breather and takes a break, folks, if country music is your speed, I do also host a Whiskey and Cigarettes show where we play today's country, traditional country, and everything else in between. For more info about that and where to tune in, you can visit our website. That's whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Podcast-wise, I do host Happiness and Darkness, a superhero movie podcast where we discuss superhero movies from all the big publishing houses, be it Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, or more. If you'd like to send me an email, and if there is a movie you'd like to discuss, you can shoot us an email at happinessanddarknesshow@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and the Instagram, and also our latest project. Oh, man, that's fantastic. Our latest project, Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, where with Rachel Friend and Zan Sprouse, we're discussing all the movies that won the Oscar for Best Picture from 1927's Wings to present day. If you'd like to discuss your favorite Best Picture winner with us, you can send me an email at goldstandardoscars@gmail.com. We're on Facebook and the Twitter machine. And what about you, Charles?
Well, Nick, as in... Poor Nick is having to suffer through me having fun with Batman and Doctor Strange Funkos.
The Doctor Strange entrance was fantastic, kind of zooming down.
Right from above, right? Yeah, just right from the top of the screen.
Very cinematic, Charles. Very cinematic.
Thank you. Well, he levitates. He's got his cloak of levitation. So, he's got to do that. All right. So as for me, of course, you can find me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hayward, Ohio, and my blog at Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast. So like, hey, WandaVision, or Watchmen, or Stargirl, or all the other great shows that we cover. Comic book sci-fi news from other podcasts for Southgate Media, including, well, hey, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that I do with Jesse Jackson, my partner in time, and assorted wonderful special guest companions, and eventually will be DJ Nick once again as well. Stay tuned for that. Right now we're going through the Trial of the Time Lord season 23 from Classic Doctor Who. We've been doing that with Rachel Friend from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast, Nick's co-host on Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast. So hope everybody checks that out, and that's what we're doing for the month of February. And then there's Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, etc., etc. And right now we just recorded our review of the 1997 David Lynch film, Lost Highway. And then next time, for episode 93, we're going to be discussing The Straight Story, which is neither of us have ever seen.
Oh, it's going to be a first watch for both of you.
It's a first watch for both of us. It's a David Lynch film, for those who aren't aware, because David Lynch actually directed a G-rated film for Disney.
Wow.
Yeah. Essentially, it's kind of like almost like a more biographical. But it's going to be
so it's like a biopic?
Kind of. It's like a true story. So essentially, it's going to be someone's life. But if you've ever wanted, this is something that's going to be very strange for us. If you've ever wondered what a G-rated David Lynch film is, you're going to have to watch The Straight Story and then tune in to Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast to find out our thoughts on this. So check that out. Challenge thrown down, you guys. And then also Drunk Cinema, I want to mention because, well, hey, Zan Sprouse and I do that as well. That's kind of our side gig where we talk all kinds of movies and we have adult conversation, adult beverages, and just kind of sit back and watch movies and hope you watch right along with us. We just recently did our little movie watch of Young Frankenstein, a.k.a. Young Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. And then coming up next is going to be a pretty fun movie as we go to 1982 to discuss Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Khan, you bloodsucker.
The year of my birth, so I definitely will have to listen to that one.
Oh, you just made me old. So apparently I'm 13 years older than you. Interesting.
Apparently.
Yep. Although 13 years less mature. Go figure. All right. So it works out. So everybody, please check those out. I would definitely appreciate it. I know Zan and Nick and Jesse, all my wonderful co-hosts, would definitely appreciate that as well.
Yes, indeed. Thank
all
you,
right.
Folks.
So next time in the Fandom Zone, episode 206, as Nick and I discuss WandaVision episode 7. What comes next? We have no idea.
We don't even have the title.
We don't even have the title, but chances are it's going to be awesome, and you're going to want to hear it. You're going to want to hear our thoughts about it.
And we may actually have Jesse on that one too, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. So, if
I don't want to make any promises, folks, but hopefully we will have the big JJ with us as well.
I promise you, he's not a corpse somewhere, or that he hasn't been wiped out of existence, or is stuck in Westview, as far as we know. Although it is in New Jersey where Bruce Springsteen is, so maybe.
Ouch, yes.
Yeah, so who knows, but we're going to try to have him here, and hopefully I'm not going to screw up the schedule again. So, Nick, thank you so much. I had a blast talking with you. Hopefully that comes off in our podcast. Seems like it does, judging by our wonderful fan mail this time.
Well, Charles, it's always a joy. As I said, we get to discuss a fantastic TV show. As two friends here talking about it. Hopefully, it'll be three friends, as I said, next week. But it's just so wonderful, and I cannot thank you enough, for just getting the opportunity to do this. It's a blessing and a joy. So, just thanks again, and thank you for putting up with my nonsense and my my board of craziness.
Well, that's okay. I'm all about that. And, you have such wonderful theories. I love your enthusiasm, and I'm sure everybody else out there loves it as much as I do, if not more, right?
Thanks.
So everybody, thanks again for listening. Thank you so much for writing in. Do it again, guys. We'd love to keep hearing from you. And then come right on back for episode 206, WandaVision, episode 7, right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Ciao.